only some parts of it, so now the whole collection is patched, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, because it's one thing to have the translations available somewhere online, but the endings, you're not supposed to post them online. So when you play, you finally clear that Lotus Land story on hard, and you get your ending, and your ending is just like, brr. You're like, okay, I guess I'll hope for a translation patch and read you later.
And especially this game, some of the endings are just so out there, it's wonderful. Like, I'm pretty sure Mima's ending is just how Imperishable Night came to happen, because her ending is she wishes to have the moon as messed up as physically possible. So there had to be a connection between those two.
Yeah.
So blame Mima for when in doubt. Now, to talk a bit about the mechanics of this game and how it differs from Flower View, pretty much it's kind of a dumbed-down Flower View with less features, because pretty much you have your bar meter at the bottom, and how it works is the more enemies you hit and kill, the higher your bar meter goes, which is what you can charge up to unleash attacks on the other person's side of the screen. So pretty much you want to kill as many of those moons as possible, just slaughter them. Get them out of there.
They're not supposed to be there.
They're not supposed to be there. Slaughter them to raise your bar to unleash attacks. And then you also have your bombs. You only have 2 bombs per round. And how it works is there's a cool feature where if you use all of your bombs and then get your bar to max, you can actually activate an invincibility period, which is extremely useful if you're going into very long matches, because you get a super powered up shot and you go invincible. And those are pretty much most of the mechanics for this game.
Yeah. Like usually you'll shoot and then stuff will magically happen on your opponent's screen. I never worked out the details, but you shoot things and it makes it worse for your opponent, so shoot them.
I think it's a bit more detailed than that.
I know, but
But the strategy in this game particularly comes from the characters.
yes.
A lot of the fun strategy when playing this game with friends is actually character selection. Because there's kind of like 3 categories of characters. There's ones who are really good to play as, ones who are really terrible to play as, but their attacks against your opponents are undodgeable. And then there's just the ones that are just ridiculous in every single way. They're too overpowered. Looking mostly at Yumemi there, because she's final boss. Fun boss. Because pretty much each character has like 3 statistics. They have their hit power, then they have their charge speed, and they have their general speed. So you have, for instance, some of the characters that are really, really kind of terrible to play as are like Kana or Ellen, but they make up for it by having really difficult to dodge patterns. So if you can survive playing as them, you can make your friend's life pretty much terrible. But then there's always the solid choices, like Rainbow, Marissa, Mima are always solid. They're solid in every way.
They're easy to play, they make your opponent's life really hard. So if you don't know what character to pick, these are good starting points.
And there's also, you know, like, for instance, Kotohime, the one in the kimono, is really the underdog character of the game. You have to be really brave if you want to be playing her against people. Or you could just be cheap and pick the final boss.
That too. So what we were just talking about, the hyper mode, I will show it to you. If I can survive that long, maybe I'll lower the difficulty a bit for demo purposes.
So until her bar runs out, she's completely invincible, and a lot of the characters will actually have their shot type go wider. Yeah, I guess you can.
Also, another thing in the game these kind of flashy bubbles, they're like blue and red. This is what you bounce back and forth between the two screens. So you bounce those bubbles over there back and forth between the two screens. Like when you kill it on your screen, it moves to the next, back and forth until it reaches a point where it results into either, on my side it was Yin Yang's flying, the big ones, or on Rengo's side it was the lasers. Yeah, I'm not writing enough.
So pretty much you're killing the ghost to get your points up and make your bar go up, so you can eventually unleash attacks, but you can also unleash attacks by attacking the fire and bouncing it to the other person's side of the stage. So this game is all about retaliating against your friends. And as far as like Toho games go, I cannot stress that this is one of the most fun to play with like another person.
So if you can find yourself a Toho buddy that lives near your place, it makes a very good party game. Okay, so before we wrap this up, because we still have a bit of time, we still have 15 minutes. So, even though these games are not that well known in Japan, the problem comes that they don't like emulators much. So even though here we've never got the PC98 console, since we're more used to using emulators and have less shame in that, we play them actually more than the Japanese fan base do.
But actually something very interesting happened recently, which was Zune actually had an event where he had 5 PC98s set up and he had all of the old games for demo for the first time in years. So pretty much, like for the first time, like this year, for the first time in multiple years, people in Japan were playing these games, which had long been kind of, impossible to play. So this kind of created a sudden surge in doujin activity relating to the PC98 games.
For example, just the past Comiket, the popular Toho Eurobeat albums, actually they made a special Highly Responsive to Prayers album. So it's a whole album on music from the first game. So I don't know if it's just me looking for PC98 stuff, but I feel like we're seeing a bit more of it in doujin culture, in music, in the doujinshis themselves.
I know a big one that kind of turned some heads was for the recent set of Soundholic videos, the PVD5 collection. They actually had 3 PC98 themes in the collection. They had one from Dim Dream, they had one from Lotus Land Story, and I believe the last one was I think it was from Story of Eastern Wonderland, but I'm not 100% sure.
We will be screening those tomorrow morning, by the way.
But we wanted to show one in particular
because we're focusing on Dim Dream.
To keep in the Dim Dream theme, we finally have the Dim Dream